Je vous salue, Marie, comblée de grâce. Le Seigneur est avec vous. Vous êtes bénie entre toutes les femmes. Et Jésus, votre enfant, est béni. Sainte Marie, Mère de Dieu, priez pour nous, pauvres pécheurs, maintenant et à l'heure de la mort.
Hello, everyone. So I plan to make this video with Archangel Michael about the new moon or the full moon in Libra before I realized the magnitude of what had happened when I was not at home or in touch with anyone on social media. I had a text early in the day from a friend of mine who has spent a lot of time in the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, and I work with her in the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire, and she sent out sort of a mass text for all of us to, send different energy there to help to quell the fire. And I had no idea I didn't realize the magnitude of what had gone on. And I was speaking to Archangel Michael about something that had nothing to do with it. And he said, would you like me to speak through you tomorrow when you make your video? And I said, yes, of course. And so if you are here just for the astrology, then fast forward to that. And we're going to listen now to a message from Archangel Michael, and I will endeavor to share his wisdom with all of you. And he's saying that he would like all of you that he is recognizing Mother Mary, who stands behind him, and with all of you. And if you are open to it now, you could receive her presence into yours to bring calm and peace, to quell the fear that is brought up every time the shadow rears its ugly head. We realize that all is magnificent and divine in the eyes of the Creator, that all is absolute perfection and working out exactly and unfolding exactly in the way that it's meant to. In times of crisis, we tend to forget the beauty and the magnificence of the people around us, the places that we each live in individually, and the glory of the planet. But in these moments, we do recognize what we have taken for granted. We look for solace in one another and the hope of what will arise from the ashes. This is the story of mankind, or at least the way that it has played out thus far. We ask each of you to release from your space, and we're happy to take it there from you as your angels who are with you there tend to it now. The fear that is gripping your heart, not just for what is happening in individual lives, which we also would like to share with you, that we recognize the struggles that all of you are going through in this time. But we would like to help you to resolve the fear by allowing us to take it from you, to absorb it through the frequency of pure unconditional love, to remind each of you that you are indeed a spark of the divine, that you have a divine purpose, that there is a divine purpose always for when these things play out, that light always conquers darkness, that fear has no place within you, You are the glory of God incarnated in a human body. Never see yourself as anything less than magnificent. Peace be with you. Peace be with us all. In gratitude, Archangel Michael. Okay. All right, everyone. So before this happened, I was going to talk to you today, and now we'll talk about it, that Libra is on the axis of the zodiac, because each of the constellations face another constellation. Libra is the one that opposes Aries, the self. Libra is the reflection of you by another. And it could be a romantic partner, but Libra is not so much about romantic partnership as it is about our relationship, the relationship that we have from between us and the other, and what is reflected back to us. When we recognize the shadow in someone else, we are seeing the shadow that's within us, just like attracts like. When you're surrounded by people and you're like, oh, what? Like I'm having something reflected to me in friends. It's not like a shadow thing. It's just something that I would like to work on a little bit regarding codependency. So, and I have it reflected to me so much that I know, I was just telling a friend of mine this morning, I must have more work to do with that. That's when you come into enlightenment. When you're always saying like this person and this person and this person and this person, that's giving your power away and like covering the truth from yourself. And I don't care what it is. You know, I have another thing professionally being reflected to me that's so ugly that I know that I have. And I'm working on it. I'm always working on myself too, you know, and you take your power back. And you stop seeing people as your enemy and as against you when you really recognize that they're just reflecting something back to you that you believe about yourself or the shadow that's within yourself, okay? And when you're able to rise above that and be like, oh, okay, I wonder what that's about, and look into that and ask the angels or the creator or a counselor or friend to help you work through those things, then you're able to see that we're all light, we're all connected, and we're all the frequency of pure unconditional love, and the rest is just an illusion. And one of the stories that we're playing out in this dimension, and you may have dreams where you see yourself playing out similar scenarios or things going on that you're like, why am I doing that in that space? And that's what Libra is about. It's about, and it's also about the balance of the light and the dark. Okay? That's what I was working on with Michael, actually, before I knew what had happened, consciously knew what had gone on in Paris. Because it's not easy for us to accept a lot of times, even though we consciously accept, yes, we're the light and the dark, and there's duality. We confuse it with right and wrong, and being better than, or, you know, competing for things, or, you know, just not wanting to see that the darkness, the shadow serves the light in some way. And that's a big part of healing. You know, people say, I heard an astrologer say, like, this isn't anything to do with the past life. Time is happening all at once. So when you look at it that way, it is important to take a look and see, like, what's gone on in other timelines for our healing, and to accept that in a lot of lifetimes, we played the shadow. I've heard some disturbing things this morning about other people who use this venue to share messages talking about that this is a punishment for the Catholic Church. The Creator does not punish anyone. And if you have those stories where you're like blasting the church and angry with the church, look at what your role was in the church. We've all had, especially if you do this work, you've had lifetimes where you conducted yourself in a manner that you wouldn't conduct yourself these days, now that you know better. But we've all had those ugly ego stories when we were in positions of leadership, religious leadership. If it wasn't you, then it's in your DNA because it was an ancestor. It's just, we all share the same stories. And so we endeavor to be without judgment. I'm listening to Michael too, so it's, we endeavor to live without judgment and to just accept things the way that they are. I'm not saying like that you have to be joyful about it, okay? Obviously, I'm not happy that this happened, but I understand the reasoning behind it. And that the shadow is worked through in order to transmute it to light. And you're powerful enough to do that, as Mary Magdalene was pointing out in the video that I did with her. And then there were also speaking about, pointing to other religions and other cultures, things that are different and make you feel like that you're outside of, that isn't a part of your immediate world. To withhold judgment is what he's saying to me. He's just saying to withhold judgment and to wait and to always understand that you lived in duality all of your timelines, okay? As you were the shadow, you were the light. And people don't like to look at that, but that's the truth. And until you accept that, you're going to be pointing out like what it is about other people, the people you're going to see them as different than you, okay? And judge them, because it's the judgment that we're holding against ourselves that is actually coming out when we do that. That's the true story of what's happening. So that is Libra, and where it's the balance of the dark and the light. It's the balance of, the reflection of self. And I pointed out when I did the new moon in Pisces video, I hope it was. I think it was the new moon in Pisces video, that Heimdall, the asteroid that represents Metatron, was at the degree in Pisces. The Sabian symbol for the degree in Pisces where he was means it relates to secrets of the priesthood or the cleansing of the priesthood. And when that fire took place, Venus was at that degree. Venus was the ruler of the full moon that we had, the last full moon that we had, and now she's ruling this full moon. This is a blue moon. When there's two full moons in the same constellation in 1 year, that's not, typically every constellation gets a full moon. So when there's two in the same sign, that's what we refer to as a blue moon. So I need to bend down and get my glasses so that I can read what's in front of me to read. I wanted to talk a little bit about the astrology of the fire. And honestly, they told me there's more important things to talk about and not to dwell so much on this, because I could make a video just on the astrology of the fire. The ascendant changes, okay? It doesn't stay in the same place like throughout the day. Like when you're born at a certain time, when the sun is in that point in the sky, that's your personal sunrise. That's your ascendant. I just found it to be, and I had this picture printed up because I wanted to point out that it looks like a flame, the flame of the Holy Spirit, the flame of Archangel Metatron, the orange flame. So I had already printed up this picture, and I printed out the chart in Paris at 6:40 p.m. Paris time. The ascendant of the chart was this. It was the supergalactic center that the NASA took a picture of. I think it was NASA. That's what it was. So we just accept that the shadow is always working to bring the light. That's why I played that recording. That's what gets me, is the people in Paris. I played that recording of the people in Paris and showing solidarity, and as a show of solidarity is what Michael is saying, that he asked me to play that to remind everyone of the purpose. Whenever there is an unfortunate event, such as 9/11, not making a comparison, I'm just pointing out that when there are tragedies, whether it's climate change tragedy or something like this, an act of terror, that we come together, we rally around, and we support each other. And the fighting that has been going on as of late in Paris has been tearing the city apart, and this is the bridge that fills the gap, that brings them closer together. And that is the way that it plays out. So I thought that was quite something. It was 4 degrees of Libra. The supergalactic center is 2 to 4 degrees of Libra, the ascendant. And then we had the interception of the 1st and 7th house, the Libra house. And in that interception was the sun was conjunct Eris. Eris gets a bad rap. She's called the goddess of discord, but she's there to shake things up and to make sure that humanity moves forward. Sometimes her methods are less than peaceful. And then that was speaking in a trine with, they've got it trining the moon in Virgo. I don't really see that as a trine, but the moon was conjunct Regulus, which is the energy of Archangel Raphael. And then forming a trine over to Jupiter, who he's stationary, beginning to move retrograde in Sagittarius, which has a lot to do with candles, or fire, okay, because the sun and Eris are in fire. Jupiter is in fire. Mars, who is ruling the sun now as she is in Aries, was on the fixed star Aldebaran, which is Archangel Michael's fixed star. And that was intercepted in the 9th house of religion, 9th house. Jupiter, also religion. Jupiter was intercepted with Ceres. Ceres was conjunct Antares, who is Archangel Uriel. Archangel Uriel's energy. And then in the 4th house, we had the Saturn Pluto South Node conjunction, which in sidereal astrology, yes, it's in Capricorn for the Western zodiac, tropical zodiac, but in sidereal astrology, Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node are all at the galactic center in Sagittarius. They're at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. So in the 6th house of what's being worked through, it can a burden. We have Nessus at the cusp of that house in Pisces. Nessus relates to abuse and also karmic cycles, endings of karmic cycles, or a new cycle beginning. Anytime there's an ending, there's a new beginning. And then Mercury was conjunct the fixed star Sheet, which relates to it's a lot of sorrow. So that was it's not really on their descendant. They have Chiron conjunct the descendant with Vesta on the other side of the descendant. They're conjunct there. And the vertex, which is like a karmic marker in the chart, it's a healing that I do in every session. Everyone has a vertex. The vertex was conjunct Heimdall, the energy of Metatron. And so you can just see that, I could go on, but we don't need to stay there. A lot of people have sent me other people's writings about what went on yesterday. And I don't like to answer, especially in public, because I know the people who have written those things. So I don't like to address it, just because then, I don't know. I just don't like to comment on other people's work. I've learned that lesson in doing this, actually, just to stay in my lane and let the chips fall where they may for everybody else. So I don't like to comment on other people's, I didn't even read other people's opinions on it, because I don't like to be influenced at all. The 8th house is which is abuse of power, is where we had Uranus. Sedna was on top of Algol. Algol is known as the demon star, and Sedna relates to abuse of the patriarchy. And they were in Taurus. So another Venus, shout out to Venus. So I want to go on with the full moon now. So the full moon is happening at 12:12 p.m. in the UK. So that's 6:12 a.m. in the Chicago, in the Central Standard Time Zone. That's a 12 and a 12. Again, it heads up to the 3s, the 6s, and the Trinity energy. We're in Easter week. And I didn't actually, Jesus is here. He's always very close to me, Jesus. I had a very real happening with Jesus when I was 7 years old, alone in my bedroom. He's my constant, always there with me. He's here with Mary Magdalene, lending their energy. And they wanted me to share, they're reminding me that I did a post yesterday on Facebook where the Marys came and asked me to share a message from them in relation to the fire. And so I shared that on Facebook. If you aren't on Facebook, I'm public, Jenny Burak. And if you are, my group and my page are Astrology for Ascension. So you could read their words there. They wanted me to remind everyone or to let everyone know that they stand in solidarity with us in bringing light and comfort to the people of Paris. And that's some of the work that we do with the Sisterhood of the Emerald Fire. But you can always ask to send the frequency of pure unconditional love to the people of Paris. Nothing can harm you in doing that at all. It's the frequency of pure unconditional love. It's the most powerful energy that there is. It's why we're here and why there is shadow and light at all. It overcomes everything, so you don't have to worry that those ties something will follow you back or anything like that. You just send the frequency of pure unconditional love and comfort to those people. You can also ask the transmission of the blue ray to go to all of them to bring them peace and comfort. At the height of the sky for the full moon that we have coming on the 19th, you see at the MC, that's the pinnacle of the sky, and there is a Sphinx where it says Sphin. Sphinx relates to astral travel and things going on in other dimensions, and is conjunct Heimdall, the energy of Archangel Metatron. So I wouldn't be surprised if more things come to light, revelations, things coming out most likely relating to the church in general. I don't like to single out a church. I really don't think there's a religious institution that's got it all going on right now. So I know that I've been Catholic in many lifetimes. My family was before I was born, and then my father became a fundamentalist Christian minister. And I know that in the church, in the evangelical church and in the Christian church, there are plenty of people, countless, as what they're saying, who are devoted to God. And I don't judge the way that they do that. That's why I don't judge Doreen Virtue. I know exactly where she's coming from. I was one of those people, so I totally get it. I would be pointing at me and saying that I'm in a cult too. If I was, still in the church, I did. I pointed at a lot of people and thought that I wasn't allowed to talk to Mother Mary either. So, you can't always judge a book by its cover, as what Michael is saying. And then at the time of the new moon or the full moon, also tomorrow, Wednesday, hopefully this video gets up before Wednesday, but we will have Mercury will move into Aries. Mercury will leave shadow, and we have the green light and the thrust forward, and Michael is talking to me, and everything that you've been waiting for, the culmination of the wait is now we'll definitely breathe a sigh of relief. Now, at the time of the full moon, Venus is conjunct that fixed star sheet, which is sorrow, but it's also divine inspiration and creativity. So it isn't all of these bodies, every single one of them is duality, just like we are. So there's a higher and a lower frequency. It's just what you choose to go with. But that Venus conjunct, remember, Venus is ruling this full moon in Libra too. And, sorry, I had my phone. Yeah, so Venus is conjunct sheet. So and the full moons bring revelation. So just wait for the creative inspiration to hit you, because you've got the go ahead, the green light to move forward now. Mars is in Gemini and he is in mutual reception with Mercury in Aries. When Mars and Gemini come together, that's your strategy, all of the facts and the process of moving forward. Also the like the chariot energy, because it's like we're going forward now. There's nothing happening in Pisces. Mars was answering to a confused Mercury who is waterlogged from all of the time that he spent there. I don't know about you, but I was pretty waterlogged myself. I've had many days where I've woken up just crying hysterically, no idea why. But you know what? I find out that things that are happening globally before I consciously know about them. Like I've woken myself up from dreams where they were showing me something and I woke up crying. And, you know, in this period that we're going through, it's important for all of us to remember that it is going to be dark. I said in the End of Corruption video, and that wasn't just for the United States, you know, the woman on the council, when she said to me, things are going to get darker. It's always darkest before the dawn. One of Metatron's favorite reminders to me is it's always darkest before the dawn. And you know what? It's true. There's always like you go through things and you feel and feel and feel and it doesn't feel good. And then there's the release of it. And then you feel elation. And then, you know, we move in cycles. All of us do. I said to them, what happens then when we reach utopia? And then it's just, and then they're like, well, pretty soon another cycle will start and then we'll do this all over again. That's the creators, you know, that it's always perfect. It's always working exactly as it's meant to, whether our ego agrees with it or not. That's just the truth. So just, you know, remember not to allow yourself to get angry about this, because then, you know, maybe look at what, and I don't know why that keeps coming up. Okay. So also at the time of the full moon, Chiron, the wounded healer, is with Mercury, and they're together there with Vesta, the high priestess. And then we've got, so Union and Michael are both intercepted in the 7th house in this chart. Again, I'm going to say that if you're looking to twin flame, coming into physical union with the twin flame at this time, maybe a better idea to wait until the South Node makes it past Saturn, and they're going to be moving together for a while now, but nothing is impossible. It doesn't mean that it isn't going to happen. But remember that this chart speaks a lot to shifts. The moon is opposite the sun, and the sun is hanging out with Uranus. Okay, so the moon is opposing Uranus. The sun is in a different constellation, but they're 3 degrees apart. So I'm going to go ahead and give them the conjunction because this is a full moon too. So yeah, and the 29th degree of Libra is really, that's actually my descendant. So I can tell you that that's where matters of balance are going to come out. Whether it's with the feminine and the masculine. And I've been saying for so long now, relationships. Doesn't necessarily mean romantic partnerships. You partner with your parents, you partner with your siblings, you partner with your coworkers. Everybody is your partner that you have a relationship with, okay? They've partnered with you to learn lessons in whatever you've chosen to give one another as a lesson. That's why when we have struggles and problems, like, you know, in childhood related to our parents or hurts from friends where there's been betrayal situations, it's important to ask yourself, why did you take that on as an experience? Why did you agree with that person to have the experience? And I know that there's a lot of you that have had really horrible experiences. I talk to brave people every day who do the healings with them, with me. I've had those experiences myself. But when we recognize that there's no one to blame, that things just work out that way, and the shadow plays a role in all of it, all that is, has the shadow in there as well, and it's working with the light. There isn't really a fight. They're working together, okay? And that's the truth about duality. So expect shakeups in relationships. And then, this is squaring that Pluto, Saturn, South Node conjunction, which is in the 6th house. In Vedic astrology, they call the 6th house the house of curses. I try to clean that up a little bit. But it's what you could also say it's what you deserve. That's also not a very nice way to say it. But Metatron says it's what we're working through. And so that's what I'll say. That the Pluto and Saturn and South Node conjunction is the shadow of authority. It's dictators. It is abuse of power. It's sexual abuse. It is sexual abuse by the father. I've done quite a few of those healings this past week, and I, again, just send love to all of my clients. I appreciate and love all of you so much. You're very brave souls, and all of you who have lived through that and have that story as well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there are things coming up about that, hopefully, because they're in that aspect of a square with the moon and the sun. Okay, and the sun is at the last degree of the masculine, and it's facing the moon. The moon is in Libra. Libra we actually consider a masculine sign as well, but it's ruled by Venus. But we're striving for balance, is what Michael is saying, in all matters. All matters. So we'll talk about diet when it comes to that. Now Venus, right after this full moon, then Venus is going to move into Aries. And then she will be answering to Mars in Gemini, who's answering to Mercury in Aries. So that will be a much lighter energy, though. Then we'll just have Neptune left there in Pisces. And that's something we've been contending with for a long time. So you're going to feel a lighter shift once she makes it past Chiron. But we're going to have these relationship issues coming up. After this full moon, then Venus moving past Chiron will also be bringing to the fore imbalance in relationships, feelings of inequality. Maybe also because Pluto and Saturn are involved, where you can be controlling in a relationship or demanding. Or maybe someone is doing that of you. But it can also bring up things at work where you feel like you aren't being recognized and treated like you're valuable, like you're worthy. In this chart, again, we have the vertex now in a very tight conjunction with Jupiter relating to religious and spiritual matters. And I want to say again that if you are a spiritual teacher, healer, if you have people that you strive to lead, important to clean up the stories of pride or where you think that you're the chosen one. Where our egos can get carried away in arrogance. Yes, you have a role. Each of us have a role. I love my class because I had a dream that I was seeing myself sitting down in front of them to teach them, and I was just like, whoa, because I had extremely powerful masters in that class. The class will be available. I need 7 hours uninterrupted in order to edit those classes and put them up on Vimeo. So that's the holdup. That's the holdup with the Patreon channel too, because I am my daughter's caregiver as well as this job. So I'm just waiting for the time to become available. And then all of that will come out. And I'll make an announcement when it happens. I haven't even finished putting up the Patreon page because I want to have a video to go with it. So I got sidetracked with that news that I didn't cover when we opened. But yeah, you were looking at stories where you aren't being treated as what you're truly worth. And then also the nodes, the North Node, is in Cancer. And that's also in a square with the sun and the moon when this comes up. So our feelings of insecurity, our feelings of not belonging, where we aren't being nurtured, where we weren't nurtured as a child or in relationship, where we feel outcast from our family. It's in the 12th house, so it could bring up feelings of isolation. But really, I think that we're, looking at now that this has happened, and what they said and what I shared on Facebook was that it was symbolic of the changes coming to the church, the reformation of the church. And they did not say the Catholic Church. They said the church, okay? There are a lot of people out there that call themselves Christians that are members of a church or consider themselves the bride of Christ is what is taught in those teachings. So, and they don't realize that the Christ consciousness is what is within them, and that's what we're striving to live. Some of them do. I know, I've known them, so I know that those people exist in the church. I also know that Metatron, the Holy Spirit, is very much alive and well in the church. That's where I met him. So, well, this time is what he said. Yeah. So anyway, you guys, it looks like we're in for a lot of shifts. It looks like we're going to have a lot of things coming up about the church, related to the abuse of power within institutions, is what Michael is saying to me. And then just about the priesthood in general. And that, again, is not limited to the Catholic Church. I remember as a kid that there were a lot of stories about molestation that was going on in the church where I grew up, and it was covered up. And I know for a fact that there was a pastor in that church who had no license to be a counselor who was counseling someone while they were molesting their child. And I'm sure that went on. I didn't know it. I was a very young girl at the time. I found out years later that had gone on. But there's a lot of cover-ups in the churches. And so let's hope that let's hope that the integrity of Capricorn is what wins out in these stories. And just keep sending light to those situations, and when they are coming up now, we're just going to send light and ask that the truth be revealed, and that the light go into the dark corners, is what he's talking about, into the secret places, and that it all come up, okay, to be that transmuted to light. That's how it happens. It's transmuted to light when it's no longer a secret. Pluto South Node. So anyway, everybody, I hope that this helped you. And I hope that, you felt a lot of peace with Mary, with Michael in your space. You don't need to be watching a video in order to ask for them to be in your presence. They're always happy to do that. And we'll just sit tight and wait to see what unfolds. But let's remember that this whole story this year with the square of Neptune and Jupiter could be, it's possible that that's a lot of fundamentalism. It's a lot of different things, but it can also be zealots. And I think that we saw that with what played out in New Zealand as well. Zealots, not a religious zealot, but a zealot, just the same. Anyway, everybody, love you guys, and take care of yourselves. Show yourself a lot of self-care, and that you're secure. And it is a lot of darkness playing out, reminding yourself that you're allowed to rise above that. You don't have to take that into your energy. I would really ask in your time alone, in your meditation time, or just in prayer time, however you practice your belief, that you could ask to have that you have compassion without any story of martyrdom. Because a lot of us can take on those things as ourselves, into ourselves, and then we feel miserable. And that doesn't help at all. We're allowed to have joy and not take on other people's sorrow. So you can ask them to help you with releasing that, Mother Mary or Michael or Metatron, Jesus, the Creator. So anyway, everybody, take care, and I will talk to you again in a week or so. Okay.